Let's get real. Most entrepreneurs don't fail because of bad ideas. They fail because of 3 psychological laws that they never even knew existed. And these 3 laws don't care how motivated, disciplined, or passionate you are, they will show up to help you fail every single time. So the problem isn't your to-do list or that you just need to try harder. It's that actually your brain is wired to fight against you. So today I'm going to break down 3 laws of psychology that are working against you to make things so much harder for you as an entrepreneur. And these 3 laws are Parkinson's law, the Yerkes-Dodson law, and Hofstadter's law. And once you understand these laws, you'll stop wasting time, stop burning out, and start working with psychology instead of against it. So despite what all the hustle bros say, success in entrepreneurship is not about working harder. Otherwise, we'd probably all be billionaires right now. And the reason that so many founders get stuck isn't because of a lack of effort. It's because they're fighting against psychology without even realizing it. And I fell for this myself. I've missed opportunities, accidentally sabotaged my own launch, and just really lacked confidence when I needed it because I didn't really understand these laws. But once I started learning more about them and respecting them, everything shifted. I became sharper, I became more efficient. I stopped setting myself up for failure with deadlines that weren't even realistic in the first place. So let me tell you about the first law. So Parkinson's law says that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. So what this means is if you give yourself a day to do a task, it will take you a day. But if you give yourself 2 weeks to do that same task, somehow it will take you 2 weeks to do that same task that would have taken you a day. And if this sounds familiar, then you're not the only one because I've done this so many times. I once gave myself 2 weeks to write a pitch for a client presentation. And guess when I actually started writing the pitch? Yeah, the night before, just like a classic school kid. I haven't changed. The night before. And what was I doing for the 2 weeks prior to that? Well, basically just procrastinating and calling it research. So I know that lots of people do this. Entrepreneurs are the absolute worst at this. I bet you any money you've definitely said something like, I'm going to dedicate the week to working on this launch. And you will spend the week working on the launch, tweaking things, trying to find ways to make things better and just analysing things, checking back again. And you could have made a lot of those decisions in just one afternoon. Or you might even say something really basic like, I'm going to spend the afternoon just checking my emails and catching up with admin. And actually, you spend the entire afternoon working on your emails and admin because somehow that's what Parkinson's law works. Whereas if you said, I'm going to do the next hour and then do some of the work this afternoon, you would have been able to do all of that in just 1 hour. So I'm going to tell you about how I've managed to fix this problem with Parkinson's law. I've basically compressed the time it takes to do things on purpose. What that means is, number 1 is I am deliberately giving myself less time to do tasks. Now, we're going to come back to that one because if you give yourself too little time, then you're going to have the next 2 laws come into play, which I'm going to come into that in a minute. But you have to deliberately compress your time, otherwise you'll end up filling the time somehow to do that. The second one is to tell someone about this deadline because you want to keep accountable to your deadlines. And the third one is to work in sprints and not marathons because when your time shrinks, your focus actually sharpens. So, if you're creating goals for yourself, then you absolutely need to know about the Yerkes-Dodson law. Remember I just said to you a minute ago that you want to make sure you're giving yourself reasonable deadlines? Well, you want to know the Yerkes-Dodson law to be able to understand whether something is reasonable or not. So Yerkes-Dodson explains why stress is both your best friend and your enemy. And it's all about finding that sweet spot when it comes to stress. Now, I want you to imagine a bell curve of some sort. And you start at the bottom of the bell curve, and you're not stressed at all, but your performance is flat. You're basically just scrolling through LinkedIn and pretending to call it networking. that's you in the bottom of the Yerkes-Dodson bell curve. But then as the pressure rises a little bit, your performance starts to increase. You start to be more sharp, you start to be more focused, you start to feel that little bit of pressure that's making you stay on top of things and perform. But then, imagine the pressure gets too much and suddenly, boom, everything drops. It crashes. And your pressure just gets so much that you get frazzled, you start making stupid decisions, and you're basically just running on adrenaline and caffeine from all your oat lattes and whatever. And so you need to go back to that sweet spot in the middle, and where the pressure is just enough to keep you running on enough adrenaline to keep you focused, but not putting you under so much pressure that you implode. So I've personally found my Yerkes-Dodson sweet spot in various different ways, and you have to realise when yours exists. So for example, like in business, I would say that a sweet spot of mine for the pressure is communicating to a client when my deadlines are, when I'm going to send them deliverables. Because if I say, I'm going to have X piece ready by Y time, I've now communicated that to them. So I have to deliver, otherwise I'm going to let down a client. But I've also dictated those deadlines. So I've made sure of like Parkinson's law and Hofstadter's law, which I'll come to in a minute, what those deadlines look like, and I've determined those. So they've not picked a randomly urgent deadline that's overly doing it, but I've communicated with them so that I'm still under some pressure that I don't just not do any work for ages. So it's a good amount of pressure for me, and I think holding yourself accountable is a good thing. Then I'd say on the other end of the spectrum, it's when it comes to poker. So for me, I've been playing in poker tournaments and in cash games, and poker tournaments, I found it a little bit too much pressure for me. They often have ultra high buy-ins, and even if I've won a satellite ticket into those events, I feel like I'm still there with that £1,500 value ticket or whatever, and I feel like that's quite a lot of money to lose, and could all be over in an hour if you're playing quite aggressively. Whereas when I sit down at a cash game, I can choose how much I want to play with. I can be reserved, I can pick my spots, and I can leave at any time. So I feel like there's enough pressure there because I still have to make the right decisions, but I play so much better in cash games because I feel like I'm under less pressure and a little bit more control. So that's kind of my sweet spot. So I want you to take a moment and think about when the last time you thought you performed really well was, and think about where did the pressure come from? How much pressure was there? Do you even know what your sweet spot is? Because I want you to stop thinking of stress as the enemy and just realise that actually you just need to find the right amount of stress to get you to perform at your best. So let's talk about Hofstadter's law, because it's probably the most painful law of them all. And so Hofstadter's law states that it will always take you longer than you expect, even when taking into account Hofstadter's law. Makes no sense, but also does make sense. It's basically saying that no matter how long you think something's going to take, it's always going to take longer. Even when you know it's going to take longer, it will still take longer. It's so ridiculous. I have been burned by this so many times, I cannot tell you. I'm in the middle of launching my new website. I thought it would take a couple of months. It's taken nearly a year. Even when I'm just like, oh, I'm going to write this quick proposal, it will take me an hour. Often takes me 4. And, you know, I just feel like I am always taking ages to do things. Even this YouTube channel, I was like, oh, I'm going to be doing loads of videos every single week, just bashing them out. It's going to be so easy. I've planned everything. Nope, none of that happens. It takes so long, and I just don't quite understand how. But that is Hofstadter's law in the making. As entrepreneurs, I don't know why, but we are somehow relentlessly optimistic about time. It's almost like a disease. And so I realised that we need a cure for this disease. And my cure would be buffer time. Always put in buffer time. So if you think that you need 6 weeks to do a launch, make it 8 weeks. If you want to get something done by June, push it back to July. Even if something's just an hour, block out 2 hours in your diary. So if you do that and you finish early, then you're just going to feel amazing, and you're going to feel like you've been given the gift of time, which is the most amazing thing in the world. But the odds are you'll probably just scrape through on time with that extra time, thanks to Hofstadter's law. So you can see why I've batched these 3 laws together, because they all totally connect with each other. You can't really plan or understand how to create goals without understanding these 3 laws. Because Parkinson's law makes you waste time. Hofstadter's law means you didn't even give yourself enough time and you underestimated your time in the first place. And well, Yerkes-Dodson either means that you didn't put enough stress on yourself so that you didn't even bother moving, or you put too much stress on yourself that you ended up burning out and feeling stressed. So none of those are good options. So if this all sounds familiar to you, then you've experienced the entrepreneur trap. And I used to just think that the way to tackle this was to just be more disciplined. But then I realised, no, that's not what it takes. You need to respect these laws and build systems around them. So let me tell you what I do now to kind of tackle these three absolutely annoyingly infuriating laws and how I'm able to be super efficient in my business now. So number one is I set deadlines that are shorter than feel comfortable to me to take into account Parkinson's law, but I must also take into account Hofstadter's law, so I ensure that I have buffers on them in the inside, right? Because I also want to make sure that I tell my clients about this and I keep accountable so that I've got Yerkes-Dodson law applied. So with the Yerkes-Dodson law applied, I want to make sure that I do feel that pressure, hence the shorter deadlines, otherwise I'd fill that up thanks to Parkinson's. But I also need some sort of a buffer, otherwise Hofstadter laws comes into play. And if I don't have that little bit of pressure and have those deadlines, then I'm not going to perform as well because of Parkinson's law. All very confusing, but that's how I now set goals. So this combination helps me stay productive, but also not burn out or produce poor quality work under really stressful conditions. So we need to learn how to stop fighting psychology. Motivation won't save you, discipline won't save you, but understanding and respecting these three laws will. So if you've been setting goals and trying to hit deadlines and you've been missing them and wondering why, now you know. And I actually went a lot deeper in my most recent episode of Sniffing Out the Bullshit. I did an episode on deadlines bullshit, and I will drop the link in the show notes below if you're interested in hearing about actually how these deadlines can actually sabotage your business. And fake urgency is so evil, and you need to learn how to tackle it. So please do take a look in the show notes if you're interested. And if you found this episode useful, then please do hit that like and subscribe button, because I am not here to give you fake productivity guru advice. I'm here all about the no bullshit entrepreneurship and real things that are going to help you actually become a better entrepreneur. So stay tuned, and until next week, I'll see you then.